Even when your budget is tight, there are some areas that you can look at to find some savings.
It's a new year and time to get your finances back in order.
But if you're low income or living paycheck to paycheck, or you just don't know where to even begin to look in your monthly expenses to be able to find some savings, then no matter which one of those three you are in the right place.
Hope and I were in this exact position just a few years ago. We were trying to find some extra money in our budget in order to save up for a house. And we didn't know whether we could do that or not. But we looked hard and put some real effort into it and made some great progress.
And those are some of the areas that we'll talk about in this video. If you don't know us, I'm Hope.
And I'm Larry.
This is Under the Median, where every week we talk about practical frugality. Let's get right to it, but first let me give you a heads up. This is part one of a two-part series. In this video, we'll show you where to look in your budget to find those areas of savings. And in the next video, we'll talk about practical steps that you can take once you have found that money. So make sure you're subscribed to Under the Median, and while you're at it, hit that bell notification button.
Recommendation number one would be to ditch dining out and avoid coffee shop visits. If you can do those two things, it's amazing how much money you're going to put back into your budget.
Every time that we talk about finding areas to save money in your budget, this comes to the top of the list. Why? Because it's low-hanging fruit. If you're doing these two things, then you're definitely spending some extra money that you could cut out immediately. But in each of the areas that we'll talk about in the video where we're showing you could save some money in your budget, we did a little bit of digging and some research, and we're going to give you some quantitative numbers to hopefully allow you to gauge how much money you actually could save from cutting these things out of your budget. Now, when it comes to dining, the average American family of four spends at least $500 a month on eating out.
Oh my goodness.
So cutting that, even if you just cut it back, look, give yourself $125 to go out to eat once or twice a month. And saving that's $350 a month right there that you're saving.
Coffee shop visits could amount to anywhere between $30 and $50. Isn't that amazing? We do spend a lot of money on these recreational resources. If you cut those items out, or at least cut them down, that will help you in a great way.
Now, as always, remember, we did research. We're talking about averages, what people generally spend on these areas. If you spend more, well, then you just found yourself some more savings. And if you spend less, you can still save money by cutting back or eliminating these areas of your budget. And as always, it depends on what coffee shop you're going to. It depends on what kind of coffee that you're ordering. Are you ordering a plain black coffee? That would be me. Or if you're ordering a double whipped, heavily laced frappe that has caramel and Lord knows what else in it,
You betcha.
then you are going to be spending more money than the plain black coffee person.
Especially that last part. I know we're speaking to a pretty frugal audience to begin with, so I don't imagine there are too many of you that fall into the category of the highest amount spent in these categories. However, any amount of adjustment will help.
Now remember, even if you're among the crowd that never sets foot in a restaurant or a coffee shop, there's another area of your budget that we believe that you can find some savings in, and that is the food that you buy and how you grocery shop. There are so many different tips and strategies we could add under this one area. We called it down to 3 or 4 just to give you some ideas. If you want some more information on how to save on grocery shopping, we've done a number of videos on this topic. We'll make sure that we pick a really good one, guys, and we'll link it up above, and we'll put it in the description of this video. One thing that's not generally talked about, especially in the United States, is serve sensible portions. I remember years ago, my grandmother was in Weight Watchers, and the first thing they taught her was to eat off of a luncheon plate instead of a dinner plate. Why? Because visually, you trick your brain into believing that you have a full portion because the plate is full. If the plate is bigger, you know what you're going to do? You're going to fill the plate. So not only could we suggest eat off luncheon plates, which we do all the time. We hardly ever eat off a dinner-sized dinner plate. But also think really critically about the amount of food that you're putting on that plate. And for heaven's sakes, keep your meals simple.
You know, I think Americans in general eat too large portions in their meals. And so this is an area that we all could benefit from. Not only will you benefit from your finances by cutting it back, you'll benefit in your health for cutting back as well.
And you know, we shared in the video that the reason that we started doing this was because we had reached an impasse in our budget years ago when we were saving to pay cash for this house. And we thought that we had cut the budget back as much as we could. And we found these are some of the tips and strategies we used, guys, in order to find those areas of our budget that we could cut back on. So the examples that we'll give you, these are real life examples of things that we did in order to save money. And remember, we were living on a low income already, living within our means, and our budget was pretty doggone small. We won't be able to go into detail on every area that we used to cut back our budget, but I put all the information that you need to know about how to reduce your expenses, and I put it in an ebook. It's called 10 Ways to Radically Reduce Your Expenses. We used all 10 of these methods when we were cutting back our budget to save for great big goals on a low income. I went into more detail in the ebook, and I give you checklists for every single method of saving money. The ebook is free, guys, and there'll be a link to the ebook in the description of the video. Now, back to how we suggest, and this is what we did when we were looking to cut back our grocery budget. We serve sensible portions, and I began menu planning every single week. It is amazing what happens when you menu plan. You know why? Because you begin to use food that you already have on hand rather than going to the grocery store. Saves money.
And that is amazing. That will help your own stores or what you have in your freezer and in your pantry. It'll keep you from wasting food, from throwing out food because it's been back there too long, and it will greatly help you. I want to say one thing about this video before we go too much further. Stay with the video until the end, and in the end, we're going to add up all of these suggestions and come up with a total amount that's possible for you to save each month. And when we did this back when we were saving up for a house, we were blown away. We weren't just amazed. We were unbelievably overwhelmed with the results that we ended up with.
All right, how about one more idea for dealing with food buying and grocery shopping before we move on to the next point? And this is something that we did that I don't think is talked about a lot, but it worked wonders for us when we were cutting back. When we combined this trick that I'm about to tell you, along with meal planning and serving smaller portions, we were able to cut that grocery budget back by about 20%. And that is auditing your grocery receipts. This isn't as difficult as it seems. You go home, you've spent money at the grocery store, you look at that grocery receipt, and you critically determine, did you buy anything that wasn't necessary? Did you buy anything at full price? Did you buy anything that was maybe a comfort food or something that you wouldn't normally have purchased and it was higher priced? What percentage of that grocery receipt was spent in each area of food? For instance, how much was meat? How much was dairy? How much was produce? How much was bakery? I tell you why that's important, because it's always important to look critically at your own spending and saying, my heavens, like 70% of our grocery budget is spent on meat. Now, clearly we don't eat meat now, but we did years and years ago. And I was surprised when I did the grocery audit, how much percentage of our total expenses on food every month was spent on meat. And that was when we started cutting back. And eventually, of course, we cut meat out completely, but those were for health reasons and not necessarily for economic reasons. But doing that grocery receipt audit.
One more strategy in terms of your food buying will help you out quite a bit. And that's anytime that you can buy in bulk, you can save money, because bulk prices are going to be a lot less than just buying the individual packages at the grocery store. You might find that you can actually save anywhere from 40 to 60% off of those items that you buy in bulk.
But as always, make sure you do the math.
Yeah.
We're huge proponents on do the math, do the math, do the math. And there's good reason that we continue to repeat that over and over again, because if you find the exact same item, let's say on sale with a coupon or a discount at your grocery store in a smaller bag, it might be less expensive at that moment in time to buy the smaller bag. So before you buy in bulk, do the math. All right, so we talked about grocery savings. Let's move on to our third suggestion, and that is look hard at your subscription services. We did this, and it was difficult to determine at first because, when you're buying a subscription, either one of two things is happening. Either you're paying for this subscription and you're not really using it in the first place. So that's an easy call. It's out of here. But it's those items that you're using a subscription service for that you're actually using the service or the items every month. That becomes a little more difficult. We'd suggest in most subscription services, you can stretch out when those deliveries are ordered and when they're sent. So if you feel like you really, really can't do away with it, see if you can stretch that out to the maximum and make sure that you're making it last as long as possible in between deliveries. And that alone will save you money over the course of a year.
Another thing that I would consider on this same subject would be make a list of your internet subscription services. Write them all down and take a look at each one, and then talk to your spouse or your significant other and find out how much are you really using these? How much good are you really getting out of them? Are you saving money by being hooked up to these services and not hooked up to some of the major paying ones? If you're saving a little bit of money, you can consider that, as a little bonus, I suppose. But Hope and I, for the most part, use free services online like Tubi, YouTube, Pluto. We use the free portions of those services, and we find so many things to watch on TV or on the internet that way.
I love that you brought up that point because it brings me to another point. I think there's something that happens in our mind, and we differentiate between a physical product that is a subscription that we're receiving and a digital product.
Yeah.
Somehow a digital product doesn't seem as real to us. So I think the money slips through our hands a lot more repeatedly and rapidly than it does if we're receiving something physically in the mail every month. I don't know. Tell us what you think in the comments section. Is there a difference in your mind and how you handle those sort of things when it's a physical product and when it's a digital product? I think there's a disconnect.
And I think we're taught wrong in a lot of areas in this particular subject matter. We're taught that the paid services are better because there's better quality programming on them, better things to watch. So you're getting what you pay for. But I'm finding there's some really good quality programming on these free services, and they're very much worth it. You might have to watch some commercials. I usually shut the volume off on the TV during the commercials, and we just get up and get some water or get some popcorn or something while the commercials are running. And frankly, I just enjoy watching them that way.
Here's a great question to ask yourself when it comes to sort of an impasse with these paid services. Ask yourself, is it really better or is it just different?
Yeah. Another really important thing to look into to save some money is take a look at your shopping habits. Do you do some extra planning before you go out shopping? In other words, do you make a list? Do you decide what are the best places to shop at? What are the best stores to go to in order to get the items that are on your list? Do you have coupons? Are these items on sale? These are all things to consider.
Do you always look for the deals and discounts before you buy? Because we all know that frugal mantra, we'll say it again, and that is when you are buying something, never pay full price. Always look for the deals, guys.
Yep.
And the final thing in this area when it comes to like the way that you shop and your habits, we would be remiss if we moved on before mentioning impulse purchases.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be so utterly aware of when you're buying, how you're buying, and why you're buying. If you'll analyze those three things, it will help a lot to eliminate some of that impulse buying.
Have we ever done any impulse buying?
Do I have to answer that honestly? Yes, we have done impulse buying. We have.
We've been guilty. I just want you to know that we fall into all the areas where improvements were needed to be made in order to come up with some of these suggestions.
Moving on to area number 5, and that is utilities and energy consumption. Many people are stuck in that rut of believing they're going to charge what they charge.
Yep.
I have to pay what they charge. There's no way that I can lower my utility bill. Not true.
Not at all true.
We could show you testimonials from at least 30 or 40 people who have written to us and said, I did what you told me to do. I lowered my utility bill. Thank you. And these are not like low amounts
No, they're
of
substantial.
lowering. It ranges anywhere from 35 to 50, 55%.
Yeah.
By doing some very simple things and not forgetting to do things like turn off the lights when you leave a room.
Yeah.
I just talked to a viewer earlier this week, and she told me, she said, I did 4 or 5 of those things that you keep talking about doing to lower your energy consumption. And she said, my electric bill was cut in half the next month. These things really work, guys. Don't discount the importance of small daily habits.
We've done some videos on this subject where we've gone into great amounts of detail. And so we can leave some of those in the description of the video. We'll leave some links to those videos for you.
We're going to delve into the 6th area that you can look at in order to find some savings in your budget, even if it's really tight. But we want to remind you to stick with us, because at the end of this video, we are going to reveal the grand total of what you could save if you adopted all 10 of these savings habits. The 6th area you want to look at is transportation costs.
We applied this little principle when we first moved out to the house that we're in right now, because gas prices soared all the way up to $4 a gallon, and they hadn't been anywhere close to that up to that time. So we really were looking for some alternative ways for me to get back and forth to work. We happened to be on a major bus route. We were only about a half a mile away from that road. So I was able to take the bus down to work and back home again. I did that for 2 years in order to save money. Then I got a really nice bike to ride back and forth to work, and I went to biking, which even cut the cost down even more, because now I wasn't paying the bus amounts to get down to work and back home again. And I rode the bike in all kinds of weather. As long as it was okay to ride down and back, I rode it in cold weather. I didn't ride it when it was snowing, icing, or raining real hard, though.
Carpooling also something to consider.
Yeah.
You split those transportation costs with someone else, and it becomes a win-win situation for both of you. Before we move on from transportation costs, there's something else to consider, and that is doing everything you can to get the most miles per gallon if you are driving the vehicle.
There's a lot of different ways to drive a car in order to get the best mileage out of it. I had a car that didn't get real good mileage to begin with. It was a Grand Marquis, full-size car with a V8 engine in it, and I actually improved the amount of miles that it would get from about 14 miles per gallon all the way up to 20 by being very careful how I drove it. Make sure I didn't accelerate it real hard. Make sure I allowed plenty of room for braking and slowing down. I allowed plenty of room between me and the car in front of me in order to be able to do those things. Then later, we went ahead and traded that car in for a Toyota Prius, which really gave us a boost in mileage. We went anywhere from 47 miles to the gallon, even all the way up to 52 and 53 miles to the gallon on real good days. So this is some things you can do to get your transportation costs down. And how much can we save in a month on transportation costs if we apply some of those?
Right. So if you look at the whole idea of carpooling, using public transportation, biking, somewhere between $50 and $200 per month. But before we move on, there's another area with your transportation costs you might want to consider, and that is your insurance. Getting insurance quotes once or maybe twice a year is a super good idea, and making certain that if something has changed, let's say that retirement has happened, oftentimes if you are driving small amounts per month, you will receive a lesser premium. And always remember to check with your insurance company if you're paying monthly and see what happens to that premium if you agree to pay once a year instead of once a month. We did this with some life insurance, and the premiums went down 8% for every premium that we were paying.
Another area that you could save quite a bit of money on is your gym memberships and maybe some fitness programs that you belong to. Take a look at the plans and make sure that you're making the best out of those plans. Are you going down to the gym every time that you should? Like if it says 3 times a week, are you doing that? Are you applying that? If you're not, you might consider changing that, or maybe getting some home equipment that you can just do your exercising at home on.
If you're paying per session and you're using the gym regularly, you might find that you actually spend less money if you pay those premiums once a quarter, once a month, or even once a year. You will find that your cost per session goes down significantly.
For senior citizens, there's another program that is offered. It's called Silver Sneakers, and that's offered through Medicare. Great way to save money on gym memberships. They really encourage people to get the gym memberships because they're healthier if they work out and do some exercising.
Before you sign on the dotted line with that gym, you also want to make sure that you ask about discounts. Larry was always eligible for a discount at our local gym because he worked for our city. So they offered discounts to people who worked for the city. You may find that you qualify for discounts depending upon your age or upon your income bracket. The gym in our area also offers discounts to those who are low income. So make sure that you're taking advantage of all the discounts that you can get. The total amount that you could save, depending on whether you decide to ditch the gym membership or change the way that you're using the gym, can average somewhere between $20 and $100 per month.
Cell phone and internet plans are really good to take a close look into. There's lots of plans out there that are very expensive, and they add up very quickly. And there are some other places that are much cheaper.
You all know our favorite cell phone plan. It is Mint Mobile. We've had Mint for well over a year, been super duper happy with them. $15 a month is what each of our plans costs us. We're going to make sure, guys, that there's a link to Mint Mobile in the description of this video. That will be our affiliate link, by the way. But there are also several other plans that are available that come pretty doggone close to Mint's plans. And many of those have been talked about in the comment section of our videos. One of which, of course, is just to get a track phone and pay as you go, because that can be very cost effective. Something else you may want to take advantage of, though, is looking at changing your internet plans as well as your cell phone plan.
Right.
Internet plans sometimes are offered at a lower cost for those who are low income. There's a law that was passed, I believe it's called the connectivity law, that makes sure that plans are offered to low-income individuals through major places that offer internet service. So check about that before you sign on the dotted line.
Another way to save money in that area is to consider bundling your services together. You can bundle several different services that they allow for, and then they offer a discount on those.
This next area is one that is often overlooked when you are looking through all of your expenses and trying to find ways to cut, and that is your banking services. Banks make money based on people who are willing to take loans or to put their money in the bank. But they also make a lot of money based on the fees that they charge you for the additional services that they are offering. Make sure that you look around for a bank or a credit union in your area that will not charge you, for instance, per check that you write. But many people don't even think in terms of paper checks anymore because so much is done online. Our bank offers us free internet banking services, and they pay all of our bills for us. However, that comes with some caveats. We have a debit card that we need to use twice a month in order to make sure that that service continues to be free for us. So before you sign up for these additional services, make sure that you have read the fine print and that you are following through on any commitment on your part that you need to do in order to continue to get those services for free.
Another area along these lines that will help you out too is if you're very careful with your checking account not to overdraft spend on any of those checks. One of our companies charges us $30 per check if we overdraw on it, and they have to put some money from savings into checking. So be really careful on that and monitor your amounts very closely.
When it comes to your bank or your credit union, be sure to ask if they have any different clubs or services that are available to those who are age 50 or over. And of course, one area we would be remiss if we did not talk about it are ATM fees. All banks have a certain number of ATMs that are associated with that bank, and they generally do not charge when you use those specific ATMs. So make sure that you check online and you're aware of the exact ATMs that you can visit in your area without paying those additional ATM fees, because they can range anywhere from $1 to up to $5 to $7 every time you use an ATM which is not associated with your banking institution.
So how much can we potentially save on our banking if we're really careful in these areas? And that's anything between $10 and $50 a month.
Another area that people don't generally consider is entertainment expenses. Now, this is separate from going out to a restaurant or going out to that coffee shop. These are things like you would go to your local civic center because you're seeing a concert, you're participating in a local community event, or you're seeing a sporting event. Yeah. All of those cost premium prices. But here's what most people don't understand. If you purchase your tickets online, you will pay an additional fee. That is how Ticketmaster makes their money. But if you will go right down to the box office at the place where the event will be held, oftentimes you can buy your tickets directly in person at the box office and you have no additional fees. When it comes to entertainment, here's another thing that people tend to not think about. Before you purchase a ticket, look around to see if you can find discount tickets. This harkens back to the thing that we just mentioned a minute ago with the banking institutions. Right. Oftentimes, our credit union will have special discount tickets available if you have an account at that bank or credit union. You can get a discount on specific community events that are happening down at the Civic Center. So make sure you look online and make sure you see if there is like a Groupon available. My sister has gone to a lot of high quality events that would have cost a great deal more money, but she was able to purchase her tickets through Groupon. So look around before you purchase your tickets.
Another thing in this area that you can do that'll save a lot of money is just host some events at your own home. You know, have a potluck dinner, have your guests bring some food, watch a video that you have in your collection or maybe one you've borrowed from the library you didn't pay any money for. You can save a great deal. And how much can you save in the entertainment field if you apply some of these principles? Anywhere from $20 up to $100 per month.
Now remember, we told you a couple of times throughout this video to stick with us because we are going to add up all of these savings and tell you how much you could possibly get from your budget every single month in order to use that money toward maybe one of your great big goals. But before we do that, I want to remind you, speaking of great big goals, I've got that free ebook available, 10 Ways to Radically Reduce Your Expenses. It goes through in detail some of the areas that we used to save money when we were saving up for a great big financial goal and a low income. And some of those areas are not talked about in this video, so make sure you request your copy of that free ebook. We'll make sure that's linked in the description of this video. Okay, Larry, I get to do the drum roll.
Okay.
How much could they possibly save? This is on the low end, guys.
Yeah, the low end of all 10 of these items that we mentioned, you could potentially save $600 a month. And frankly, that was what happened to us when we were saving up for this house. We found out we could save a lot more money than we thought.
Now, if you're looking to save some money, one really great way to do it is a no spend challenge. Very popular in January specifically. We just did a video where we talked about how to have a successful no spend challenge and more importantly, how to make that challenge super duper fun. We call it gamifying the challenge. We've used the tactics we talk about in this video, and it's made it so fun that we have done no spend challenges over and over again. The video, guys, if you want to check it out, is right over there.